Oh, hello there. Well, today is, and of course, in this modern world, there was a time when I would have just looked on a calendar, but now I use my iPhone for such things. So today is Tuesday the 24th of November. Black Friday's on the way. Watch out, chaps, look for those bargains. And I'm making Delia's light glacé fruitcake for Christmas. Now, this book from which I'm taking the recipe was published in 1990, and like all fruitcakes, one finds oneself buying an awful lot of stuff that is far more than one needs to make a single cake, which is why companies have managed to find a little niche, I imagine, supplying exactly the right ingredients for a specific recipe. And no doubt they make large profits, and I hope they do, because it's a rather clever idea. I think my son uses one of them. So, like all good old-fashioned people, I've done this before, and I'm going to use what's left from the last time I made it. It was probably this time last year. So, I won't go through the ingredients because you can buy the book yourself, and I'm sure Delia would be grateful. But in here, I have some sultanas and chopped apricots, which I steeped in 3 tablespoons of brandy overnight to soak into the apricots and sultanas. I've added some glacé cherries, some mixed peel, yes, Italian mixed peel, some, I haven't used Angelica because I ran out of that. I've used some crystallized ginger, and I have other stuff to go in, which is going to be the zest of a lemon and the zest of an orange. 1 lemon, 1 orange, haha. And I have, in the intervening period, just sifted some flour, that would be about 8 ounces, and some caster sugar into this bowl here. That's flour and caster sugar, in case you're interested. And I'm now going to add 4 eggs. So here I have 4 eggs. Now, when I first used to use Delia's recipes, I was considerably younger. And in 1976, I took a holiday with some very good friends of mine to Tunisia, which was thoroughly good fun. And like any young fellows on a foreign holiday, we imbibed a few, it is fair to say. There was a lovely incident where we were getting on the plane to go home. The plane was delayed. We had a few at the bar, needless to say. And I and my friends were very fond, in fact I dare go as far as to say fans, of an Australian comedian called Barry Humphries. Now, Barry Humphries is extremely well known for his creations of 2 very, very famous characters, namely Dame Edna Everage and Sir Les Patterson. Of course, times have changed so much since then that Les Patterson would probably not be allowed on the television these days. He was that politically incorrect. This was before Tony Blair invented political correctness, and frankly I'm not much of a fan of his for it. But it has made a difference, and of course I, being a fan of his, decided I would impersonate dear old Sir Les at the airport in Tunisia. I'll give you a flavour of the sort of humour Barry Humphries used to impart via this character, Les Patterson. but I'll do that. I'm just about to beat up these eggs, sugar and flour. So I'm going to switch off, do that so you don't get the noise, and then I'll return. So I've just made a cup of coffee and washed my hands for 20 seconds, as we all are doing in this wonderful 2020. I've whisked up my my flour, sugar and butter, and if I just remove, wow, that tastes delicious. I just remove these things so that I can get the stuff all mixed up and ready to cook. Now, I just need to get this stuff off. Not as easy as it looks, actually. Anyway, where was I? Oh yes, Les Patterson. So the sort of humour that Les Patterson enjoyed, and I have to say I too very much enjoyed it, and many of my friends did. He used to appear on a programme on television called The Michael Parkinson Show. Now, some of you won't remember Michael Parkinson, but he was a fine he is a fine Yorkshireman, quite elderly now, who had a chat show, and it was quite revolutionary in as much as he was rather open to his clients' opinions, and anything but dictatorial, and also a very big cricket fan, which I approve for what it's worth. So he was on the Parkinson show, and he told a wonderful story about his wife. Now, the character Les Patterson claimed to be cultural attaché to the Court of St. James in London, although he was an Australian. And he had a fictional wife called Gwen, Lady Gwen. So I'm just getting all the bits into my mix, otherwise I don't want to miss any of them out, otherwise it won't taste right. So Parkinson asked him, playing to the character of Sir Les Patterson, and how is the lovely Lady Gwen? To which Les replied, well, I don't see much of Lady Gwen these days, rather busy with my secretaries, wink, wink, nod, nod. But, he said, she's a boring old stick, but gets a bit lonely. So I bought her a dog. Very nice too. Anyway, goes on Sir Les. She rang me up a couple of months ago and said, Les, I can't get the bloody dog to respond to my whistle. So Les says, well, you know what, Gwen? Dogs have a lot of hair in their ears, so maybe you need to go to the chemist or the vet and get yourself a depilatory cream which you can put on his ears so that the hair is removed and he can hear you whistle. So she tells me she went to the chemist, asked for the depilatory cream, and before she could go any further, the chemist said, look, he said, if you use this stuff, you've got to be very careful because it's caustic. Now, so if you use it on your legs or your arms, he said, you've got to wash it off with soapy water because otherwise it might, burn a little bit. He then went on to say, of course, if you use it for your armpits or your face, which is a more sensitive area, you've got to wash it off real quick with lots and lots of water because otherwise you're in plenty of trouble. So Gwen pipes up, oh actually, Doc, Mr. Chemist, it's for my schnauzer. Right, he said, in that case, don't ride a bike for at least a couple of weeks. I'll be back.
The Jams, 1978 hit cover of the Ray Davies song.
Ah, there you are. So I have now added, as the recipe suggests, the ground almonds, 50 grams of ground almonds, the salt, the zest of 1 lemon and 1 orange. And while this is a cookery video, of course it is also turning into something of a TV history video. Quick slurp of coffee. Now, some of you may or may not remember, but there was a rather engaging television presenter whose name was Lloyd Grossman. And I mention him because he used to present the television show MasterChef long before Greg Wallace and John Turode became rather disciplinarian in their presentation. And Lloyd Grossman also used to do a program with David Frost called Through the Keyhole, which is now presented by a rather strange man called Keith Lemon. Now, he's not quite my cup of tea, but then his behaviour is probably not much different from my behaviour when I was in my 20s. I no longer am, so it's changed a bit. So why am I telling you all this? Because Lloyd Grossman, on his presentation of Through the Keyhole with David Frost, used to say, let's look at the evidence, when they'd seen a famous person's house. So this is the mixture with the zest of the lemon and the orange, the salt, the ground almonds, and all of the other fruit and flour and sugar and eggs, all blended in rather beautifully. So that's stage 1 of my Delia's light glacé fruitcake. It is my intention, because my wife has told me that it is my intention, to ice this cake with marzipan and icing. But unlike Sir Les, my wife and I do talk on a very regular basis, and she has very kindly prepared a lined, papered, greased tin in which I will now insert my cake ingredients ready for baking. The oven is on at 170 degrees centigrade, and it will go in for 1 hour, I believe. I'm just checking the book as I write. Bake cake for 1 hour, then place a double sheet of grease-proof paper over the top of the tin and turn the heat down to gas mark 2 for 150 degrees centigrade for a further 2 to 2.5 hours. So I'm now going to pour this into my tin, and when it's baked, I shall return with more stories of Sir Les Patterson. So, before I pop this in the oven, I just wanted to let you know that that's how it looks before it goes in. In fact, I'm going to just turn the camera around so that you can see it in the light. So that's the mixture ready for cooking. And I've also noticed that Delia's book, which is called Delia's Les Christmas, the dedication is to her mum. And of course, mums are, well, they are the most wonderful things. I think we can all agree on that. And my mum used to cook, and I used to enjoy, helping, in inverted commas, when I was a small boy. And she used to let me lick the bowl. So I'm dedicating this particular film to my mum, to my late mum, and I'm licking the bowl. Well, I have to say, can't do this quite like Nigella. Haven't quite got the figure for it, but It's delicious. Right, going in the oven. Catch you later. So, before the buzzer goes off, which will indicate that the first hour of cooking is complete, I'll just tell you the end of the story about the Tunisia holiday. And after a fabulous fortnight with my best mates, that would be Howard, Daryl, Bobby, the four of us ended up at the airport. The plane was delayed, and I decided, after becoming somewhat tired and emotional, I think is the current parlance for such a state of mind, I announced in a very loud voice and my best Australian accent to the waiting members or passengers in the lounge that I'd had a word with the pilot after a few drinks in the bar, and he is so sorry for this delay. But he mentioned that the tyres on the plane do look a bit ropey, but they'd be perfectly safe to land on. And of course, these days I'd probably be in an interview room at the very least for behaving in such a way. So we finally board the plane, and the four of us get shoved straight to the back, last on. So I, in my loudest and best English, remind the audience that we have actually made it on board, and we've been put in the Mile High Club. Ho, ho, ho. So in the intervening period, if I could just wax lyrical for a bit, humour has changed, political correctness has altered it, change is inevitable. I'm not sure it's always for the good, but I shan't fight that cause because nothing wrong with a bit of change. You can find a bit more about me on www.paulcdyer.co.uk. I have a YouTube channel. I become very, very passionate about the old ukulele. This is my latest, and this is the first few bars to Jethro Tull's. So, Jethro Tull's hit, and when the buzzer goes off, I'll show you my cake. I won't show you the finished item once it's, had its icing and marzipan put on, because it will just look like any other cake. But it's going to go back in for a couple of hours, after which time the sides should have come away from the tin, the top should be a wee bit springy, and we're very lucky actually, because 2020 has been a grim year for everybody. But one thing we humans have that no other species has is humour. So be humorous, be kind to each other. I wish you nothing but the very best this Christmas, this New Year. Have a great 2021. May it bring you many, many better things. And I wouldn't want to be a politician for all the tea in China, as my mum used to say. So thanks to Mum and Dad, thanks to my friends. The world wouldn't be the same without a few chums, really good chums. And happy Christmas. Cake just about to come out of the oven. Oh, by the way, that was Locomotive Breath, in case you didn't recognise it. I'm not a great musical player, but I do love it. Ah, there goes the buzzer. Here comes the cake. Let's get my oven gloves. So, hopefully, if I just turn that round so the light faces my baking tin, there is my light glacé fruit cake, according to, well, partly according to, I haven't done everything that Delia recommends, partly because my kids don't like nuts, so they say. So there it is, it goes back in for 2 to 2¼ hours. I'll take a photograph and show you what the final result looks like. And as Ringo Starr would say, peace and love, man. Peace and love. and have a very happy Christmas. Ta-ta.